As we wind down our program to a close, we'd like to invite His Majesty's Ambassador, Lord Nicole Stephanie Bofi, UK Ambassador to the Republic of the Philippines and the Republic of Palau for the closing keynote. Let's give her a warm round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Thank you so much for waiting all the way to now to make the time to have a conversation with me. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. It's a pleasure indeed to talk about unlocking investments in both nature and energy, given that these are fields that are brimming with opportunity and potential here in the Philippines. And we know that. We know that the market for these is unsaturated at the very least, and that there's so much more that can be done, contributing obviously to improved environmental outcomes, reduced emissions and sustainable growth, but also to job creation and indeed to human health and well-being, better for all of us, for the planet and indeed for people. Before I begin, may I congratulate the organizers for this forum, Eco-Business, together with the UN Environment Programme Finance Initiative, and other partners, organizations, of course, BDO, GHD, Pollination, NEO, Energy Development Corporation, Global Green Growth Institute, and all of the knowledge and regional partners that have contributed. Now is, of course, a great time to be having this conversation. We are long past the point in the debate where there is even a question on the importance of reducing emissions and investing in nature. We are also happily past the point in the debate where we even ask whether there is a commercially viable case for that in the vast majority, if not all, the sectors. And we have a very good sense of what we need to invest in the Philippines when it comes to energy and nature. We know that renewable energy, off-grid solutions, energy efficiency, agroforestry, ecotourism, marine conservation, sustainable fisheries, etc., etc. But the question, of course, is how do we mobilize the finance needed to unlock a blue and green economy, and how do we work, as we were just hearing from the previous panel, as partners, all of us working together and leaning in and supporting private sector organizations, incentivizing them and accompanying them on their journey in this process. Private capital is obviously the key in all of this. And the beauty of it is, with the right enabling environment, private sector companies are more than willing to be the motor of that change. Indeed, CEOs across the world, and in the Philippines in particular, are ready to meet changing customer expectation on climate impacts, to respond to government regulations on sustainability, and they are also up for innovating to meet new needs and to ensure their firms are viable in 5, in 10, in 20 years' time. But what we do know is that for this to happen, there's an important role for the public sector. And this, if I may, given that I do come from the public sector, is what I'd like to focus on in these remarks today. The role of the public sector in enabling that change and unleashing the innovation of the private sector. And if you will allow me, I'd like to use the UK example to illustrate this point. And I'll speak in particular about government policies and regulations and what we've done in the UK to facilitate transition finance in particular. And I'll touch upon carbon markets very, very briefly because I came at the tail end of a presentation on that, which was really interesting. So for us, the journey started a while back. In 2008, as the UK, we committed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by 2050 with the Climate Change Act. And 10 years later, we became the first major economy to pass laws to reach net zero by 2050. To be honest, we weren't entirely sure how we would do this. And this speaks to the previous point about net zero. But we knew we needed that political commitment, which I see as a bit of a northern star, if you like, to guide both public and private action and to keep our feet to the fire. I think that speaks to the point that Danielle and Tony, you were making earlier. To deliver on this and to plan for a rapidly changing future, successive governments in the UK have used policy and regulatory changes to drive the evolution in the shape of our economy. The idea really was to have an economy that looks very different 5 to 10 years into it than it did before. They sought to shape new markets and industries and to rethink what it means to have a UK comparative advantage in different industries. And of course, they've sought to invest in new green technologies, but also new green skill sets, so investing in people through education. In September 2017, the UK government established an independent task force, the Green Finance Task Force, to help deliver this vision and to deliver the investments needed to further consolidate financing international clean investment and to maximize opportunities to be had for UK businesses in this rapidly growing area. And I'm really delighted that this Green Finance Task Force was the inspiration behind the Philippines' own Green Finance Task Force, which is generally referred to as the Green Force here, and which has been really doing an amazing job over the last few years. Alongside all of this, and you probably know the story around the different funds we set up and the governance structure that we changed within the government, we did make robust international commitments on climate change, on the environment, on biodiversity, and on sustainable development. And indeed, after extensive consultations with the private sector in general and with SMEs in particular, we launched a series of industry and sector-specific strategies in recent years. They went all the way from strategies on critical minerals to a modern industrial strategy. Now, why did we do that? Partly, again, to give us that Northern Star that I was talking about, so that we can follow it on our journey. Having a clear direction and vision of travel is essential if we want to be successful. Essential to know which sectors are going to be the ones driving the growth that we want to see. Where do we have a comparative advantage? Where do we want to incentivize more investments, more action, more startups? But it's also partly to be forward-looking and shaping our economy, not holding to the old orthodoxy, being clear how we will deliver on our climate and nature ambitions, how we will build jobs for tomorrow, recognizing that each sector is different and will be able to progress at its own pace, given they are all starting from different baselines. Again, back to the point about baseline that was made in the previous conversation. Another key feature of the British system that I think is relevant to the conversation is the government's role in unlocking transition finance. As the UK, we've looked at how to strengthen the UK's role as a hub for transition finance. Our ambition is to be the world's first net zero aligned financial centre. This will mean mandating UK financial institutions to have robust, firm-level transition plans setting out how they will decarbonise and strong UK government oversight of the financial sector to ensure financial flows actually shift towards supporting net zero. To deliver on this, we've commissioned an industry-led market review into how the UK can enhance our position and become the best place in the world for raising transition capital. The Transition Finance Market Review has compiled industry feedback through a call for evidence, and it's now being prepared to be shared. Already, the UK's Financial Conduct Authority requires listed companies, as well as large asset owners and managers, to disclose transition plans on a comply or explain basis. And as standards for transitions plans emerge, the government and regulators will take steps to incorporate these into the UK sustainability disclosure requirements and will legislate to deliver this. Now, in the previous conversation, there were talks of transition risks and the challenges and difficulty for some private organizations, in particular smaller ones, to deliver on this and to be able to meet these ambitions. I think that points to the need to accompany these private sector companies to provide good practice to provide case studies and models of what's worked in different circumstances. So investing on that is absolutely critical, and I think that was one of the things that emerged very, very clearly from the industry feedback that was gathered to prepare for this. So how do we work as a team? So not the government's role is not just, of course, to monitor compliance, but to support to accompany and to hold the hand where necessary of some private sector companies. London is already a transition finance hub, and that also provides big, big opportunities here in the Philippines. I hope we can do more and more in this space together to access this transition finance and put it to good use here at home in the Philippines. We've already started doing that, and we have a partnership between the London Stock Exchange and the Philippine Stock Exchange to encourage new IPOs coming online in the Philippine Stock Exchange. Well, not to encourage, but to ensure that people in a UK ecosystem are aware of these IPOs and able to invest in them. And I'm really pleased that for the first time, the British government invested £12.5 million in a renewable energy IPO here in the Philippines, which I think is an interesting innovation in terms of how do we make financial services in the UK work with our partners here in this country. So I hope to see a lot more of that. I'll say one quick word on carbon markets because I know the event touched on this earlier today. I think we cannot overstate the importance thereof, in particular in the context of the Philippines. Mangroves alone sequester carbon at a rate 4 times greater than terrestrial forests, and seagrasses are responsible for storing 18% of the ocean's carbon. And right now, that carbon potential remains largely untapped. So I completely agree that now is a really opportune time for the Philippines to explore its carbon markets potential. I think the proposed legislation on the low carbon economy is really interesting and exciting in that respect. It directs the establishment of an emission trading system for the industry sector and the implementation mechanism to achieve national climate targets. It's exciting because it signals how the Philippines is aiming to take a bolder approach to tap into the global carbon market, as well as investing in those sources of carbon capture. It's my hope that all industry actors will work closely with those responsible for maintaining these ecosystems, such as coastal communities and indigenous peoples, to develop this really, really critical policy in this space. The previous panel spoke about partnerships. I mean, that's really the name of the game, isn't it? It's really at the heart of everything that we're talking about. We all have a role to play, whether it be consumers, whether it be citizens, private sector organizations, financial services, public sector, civil society, research institutes, you name it. We cannot address the urgency of the climate and nature crisis without coordinated action at the domestic level and indeed at the global level. So if I may, I'd like to talk a little bit about the partnership between the UK and the Philippines, because this is something that we are incredibly proud of, because it's been a journey that we've gone on together over the last few years, and I think we've innovated and done really exciting things together. For the last 4 years, we've had an annual climate and environment dialogue between our two countries, chaired by the Secretary of DNR, who's, as you know, quite a champion for all of this. And through that, we've set in clear plans and action points for our two countries to share best practice, to share technical expertise, to co-fund innovative research, to support local government and civil society, and to unlock green investments. This has already delivered real life changes to the lives of individuals, and this is what it's all about. So to give you just a few examples, our UK-funded Accelerate to Demonstrate facility opened a call for proposal to support the implementation of catalytic and scalable pilot projects across the Philippines in 4 thematic areas: critical minerals, clean hydrogen, smart energy, and industrial carbonization. Separately, we have 4 new R&D projects in the Philippines which have received funding to conduct feasibility studies exploring the development of zero-emission technologies that would replace fossil fuel generators. If they're successful, we will be with you, investors, to scale them up. In June, as I mentioned, the UK government acted as the anchor investor in the listing of Citicorp Renewables on the Philippine Stock Exchange. And through one of our programs, we really have high ambitions to find more products that we can support on their listing journey to grow the Philippine capital market. In terms of technical assistance, we are currently working to develop climate adaptation investment cases for projects in the water food system at Nexus. And I think that's really very important because, in particular, at the beginning of this journey, there was such a strong focus for investment in mitigation and strong focus on energy for all obvious reasons. But what we're trying to say, working hand in hand with the government of the Philippines, is that there are opportunities in adaptation to really encourage private sector companies to invest in that and make a return, but also invest in the unavoidable, in addressing the unavoidable impact of climate change. And here, if I may, I'd like to quote the World Bank's Climate Change and Development Report, which is a seminal report that it launched in the Philippines about 1.5 years ago. And it said that on a business as usual scenario, unless we invest in adaptation, this will cost the Philippines 14.5% of GDP by 2040. So that is a huge number. We collectively really have to focus on this adaptation imperative. So what we're doing with the government is trying to develop a pipeline of bankable projects in water, in food security. There'll be other, obviously, opportunities in ocean marine management, etc. But those are the ones we're focusing in, or indeed in rainwater harvesting system, etc. Trying to demonstrate the proof of concept for private sector investment. And we are also working to help develop national and local biodiversity financing strategies, coral reef insurance. The space of insurance is incredibly exciting. Biodiversity credits, and nature-related financial disclosures. A few other things, but I think I'll leave it at that for now. I'll conclude again with the point that others have concluded with, namely the importance of partnership. Embracing the opportunities here in the Philippines and working together as partners will undoubtedly propel us towards a future where economic development and environmental stewardship can and will go hand in hand. But to do this, we need to not just work together, but plan ahead together. Invest in our technologies, invest in our people, invest in developing a robust pipeline of projects, and indeed develop that vision. Where are the jobs going to come from? What are the sectors that we want to emphasize as the sectors that the Philippines is going to particularly shine at? I'll conclude with the final sentence to say that you can be assured that the UK will stay the course, and I very much look forward to working with all of you on this shared journey as we deliver on our shared mission together to support climate change, to address climate change, and to support environmental sustainability. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, His Majesty's Ambassador Bofi. Again, another warm round of applause to our UK Ambassador to the Philippines.